This is a video for everybody in their 50s. If you're like me, I'm 56. I was let go from a job 2 weeks ago without cause, air quotes. If you're in a corporate job, you're making 75, 85, 100K plus, and you've been there 3, 4, 5 years, and you know your spidey senses are tingling and you think maybe this could potentially, what happened to me, happen to you. I got a few tips that I'll share. I was just let go after being somewhere for 5.5 years. I have another video that I'll link at the end that talks about that experience, where I react within an hour of being let go. If you're somebody who makes like 300 grand a year and you live like you make $1 million, this video is not for you. Click away. A few things I want to recommend that I've practiced that have worked for me. And disclaimer here, I am not a lawyer, I'm not an advisor, and I'm not a therapist. The first thing I would recommend is you keep your emotions in check. When I was let go most recently, it was done remotely. These meetings are really brief. Kind of like when you're arrested, you have the right to remain silent. You don't have to say anything. You can just keep your mouth shut, zip it. Make sure that you tell your significant others, partners. The most important thing at that moment is, first of all, your health, then your wealth, your family's overall well-being, and you don't want to jeopardize any of that. In my case, I was let go by a manager who was super smart and sharp, but she'd only been there a few months. Right from the get-go when she got there, I don't know whether it was a personal thing or what the deal was, but just wasn't treating me very nicely, and it kind of put a bad taste in my mouth, and also gave me a little bit of a gut feeling about what might be coming down the road. But I felt much more prepared for it at age 56. It had happened once before. First time it happened, I felt like maybe it was a bit more personal, but whether this is personal or not, at the end of the day, it really comes down to the money, right? The financial part of it and your well-being, okay? So if you can keep your emotions in check, you don't have to say anything at all. They may very well serve you with a termination letter, with the severance package. In that letter, you might be given a deadline to sign it. If you felt it was really good and it didn't really matter to you and you wanted to sign it, go ahead. But I wouldn't recommend that, because what I've done is I have consulted a lawyer. But prior to doing that is collect your thoughts, collect your emotions. I immediately had people starting to reach out, and what I'm going to say is a little bit harsh, but it's kind of true in that people you end up working with, it's pretty random unless you got your job through friends or family or whatever. I'm talking about your average corporate job that you accepted an offer at some point, you fell in there, you didn't know anybody per se, and if you're like me, now you're gone, or you have a gut feeling, you start seeing people being let go. Your work people are not your friends, okay? And I know that sounds a bit harsh, and I know you might have built up some really strong relationships. You may even have a spouse out of the deal, but no gossiping. Thirdly, consider consulting a lawyer. You might have a consultation with a lawyer for free. In my case, I paid $250 second time around. Great thing. I'm so happy I did it. I'm so grateful to my lawyer. Obviously, they get paid out of the deal, and as well they should. But if you get offered some kind of a package where it's like 4 or 5 months, and maybe a lawyer says to you, you know what, at your age, because age needs to come into play, where you live, the job prospects, the market, things like that, the circumstances, your level of where you were in the work hierarchy, those things all have to play a part. And a lawyer might say, you know what, you might be entitled to double, or we might be able to negotiate several more months for you. And that could be meaningful money that really gives you some breathing space. You know, you gotta take care of your mental health in these situations, and you know, nobody wants to just be cut loose and be given a couple of weeks and say, see you later, beat it. No, you need to protect yourself. So that's what I've done. If you can do that, hire yourself a lawyer for a consultation, and if they can get a better deal for you, fantastic. Those are the 3 things that I've done, and I would highly recommend. The last thing I would say is, you never know. You don't want to burn any bridges. That's why I go back to the first point of keeping your emotions in check, is that, you know, I had a manager came along, she's new, they all need to make a big impression, right? Sometimes I like to say that some of them will come in, they'll mess up the sandbox, get a pat on the back, and then get to fix the mess that they created, right? It's one of those corporate games, and so be it. and you might be the sandbox that gets messed up or gets kicked out of the sandbox. But in a year or two from now, if you keep your emotions intact, you never know. Someone might come back to you and say, you know what, we really need so-and-so back in the office. I want to get Jeff back in the office, and let's offer him this role over here. And that'll only happen if you left on good terms and you didn't burn a bridge. I mean, maybe you don't want to go back to that place, and maybe you do. Maybe if under the right circumstances, it just doesn't cost you anything to just keep your emotions in your back pocket. Don't gossip. Some people just want you to be upset. You know what I mean? Like, there's people like that. You don't really need those people in your life. You want positivity, and it might just be you bringing it. So those are the things that I would do. Emotions in check. Your work people aren't your friends, and get a lawyer. If I can help one person just based off of my own experience with those tips, then fantastic. And if you can relate to any of this, just let me know in the comments, and have yourself a beautiful day. If it's like this day, go outside, go for a little bit of a walk, take a deep breath, and know that you're going to figure it out.